Okay, Lise, what can I say about this? She's running for the doors now when I tell the story. It turns out that Lise and I worked together, and I didn't know at the time, on establishing a vineyard with the most peculiar species that have been mentioned so far. And it has been mentioned once already. I'm not sure it's still there, but it seems like Francis Ford Coppola put in a muscadine block for production and for winemaking too. I hope she tells the story about how it got there. I left it out, but I'll tell it. And she found the mother vine as well of Scuppernong. So that's back and put in our collection now as well. So.
Brought you a gift.
Oh,
it's heavy. So. Here you, there you go. I'll put it right there for you. Sorry. I love heavy gifts, don't you all? So hi, my name is Lise Asimont. I'm going to figure out how to advance my slides. It's just the big black one that's obviously showing an arrow in the correct direction. So today, my presentation is going to be utterly, well, first I'm going to start it. I had COVID 2 weeks ago, and it took me down. So I'm going to do a lot of that. I'm clean. I have clean tests, but it's just been a little tough. So if I hold the podium and kind of do the breathing, like I'm running a marathon with 3 weeks worth of bronchitis, that's what that is. So I do apologize. So my presentation is not going to light the viticultural world on fire. It's not going to be filled with any data whatsoever. So Carl, sorry about that. It's basically, I was told to focus on 3 things. So I'm going to dive right into that right now. Those 3 things are who am I, which honestly, Karen, that's a really incredibly philosophical discussion that I'm probably never going to find out till even after I die. So that's funny. When I said that, my iWatch actually answered, so that's creepy. The second one is what did I learn from Dr. Walker? So that's going to be quite a bit. The third question Karen asked me to answer is what did I learn at UC Davis? And I was really lazy about that one, but for those of you who've worked with me, it shouldn't surprise you. And the fourth one is please take it with a large, large rock of salt, how to be successful in the wine industry, which is really, I feel like Karen kind of punked me because I'm looking at who's in the audience, and that's really a funny thing for me to tell all of you. So hi, Zelma and Phil, how you doing? Yeah. Fun. So who am I? Well, this is a picture from 1999. It's from the Walkers' living room here. It's one of the famous holiday parties, which had a famous white elephant gift exchange that we will be reviewing in depth quite soon. And that's me. So that's who I am. So let's dive into that. Today, a lot of my buddies, it was great to see Samuel, and Samuel's lovely joke to me, gave me a big hug, and he goes, where the hell are you now? So I've had a windy road in the industry, and it's all because of Andy. So starting off from the beginning, I'm the proud Filipino American. So my mom's an immigrant from the Philippines. My father's a 3rd-generation American. And growing up as any good Filipino girl, we had a very strong medical background. So I went to college to become a doctor just like my parents. Both of my parents were physicians. So were many of my cousins, are nurses, hospital administrators, my brother, aunts, uncles. So needless to say, I went to St. Mary's College and was a organismal biology dropout and started studying anthropology because it's so useful. And my family was really, really glad I chose that path. So one party, my dad said, well, what are you going to do with your life, kid? And I said, I'm going to teach other people anthropology because I love it so much. And he said, well, that's tough to pay the bills. And I'm sure everybody in the audience has been in this situation. And so he said, what about wine? And there's a really good reason why he said, what about wine? That 3rd-generation American father of mine actually was of French descent. The family's from Alsace, okay? So I said, oh, well, I guess wine's something we've always had at the table, and I've grown up drinking, and it took me about 3 months of my life to figure out that I didn't like white zin, so I feel like I might be predispositioned to have a decent palate. Let's try it. So this is the most hilarious story, by the way. My father said, well, I hear there's a school at UC Davis for wine. And I said, really? Where's that? And he said, oh, it's near Sacramento. And I said, oh, I go to St. Mary's. I can just drive there. So I called, because this is before emails, I called and I got set up with a meeting with this guy, Dr. Andy Walker, and he was entirely engaging, absolutely wonderful, and he had this amazing amount of outdoorsiness that I valued. I was from an outdoorsy sort of place in the mountains of Southern California. And I really identified with him, so I applied, and by Jolly, I made it in to be his master's student, and it was a wonderful experience for me. I studied these things, thank you, Peter Cousins, Dr. Cousins, who taught me how to do this. I attribute both Andy and Peter with my love of books on tape now, because you have to listen to several novels as you count those little red egg masses on Maloidogyna incognita egg masses there to do your research. So my master's thesis was just basically a general screening of the commercially available germplasm to resistance to Maloidogyna incognita, and another biotype as well. And it was a really fun experience, and I really enjoyed it so much. And from UC Davis, I got a job at Cambria in Santa Barbara County, Tempeski Canyon, Tempeski Bench, as an assistant vineyard manager right out of grad school. And boy, was I unprepared. Not because of Andy, just because being an assistant vineyard manager, you need to be able to do things like drive tractors, which I had to learn on the job. And it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very grateful for that. And we looked over, and actually my anthropology background came in quite handy with that job. As a Filipino-American, I look of Spanish descent. But my mom had a sixth sense of humor, just like Karen's, and so I grew up speaking German and French, because it's so useful. Again, so useful. So I learned Spanish on the job as well, which was great. And then I had the opportunity to join the Geyser Peak Winery team. I got to move up to Sonoma County in the year 2000, and I still live there to this day in the town of Healdsburg. Come visit us. And it was a wonderful experience, because I left vineyard management and I went to something that Andy had always been hinting that I go into, and also another man in the front row, Dr. D, Mr. Nick DeKuzlian. I'm a horrible, horrible researcher and a somewhat mediocre scientist, but I'm funny and I can get along with people. And so grower relations was a perfect fit for me, and both of these gentlemen always said to try that. And so starting in the year 2000, I joined the Geyser Peak team, and I've been in grower relations for the most part ever since. And at that point in time, the entire state of California became my classroom. I learned how to speak the language of Valley, and I knew that it was different than the language of Lodi, and I understood the language of Monterey County and San Luis Obispo County, which is actually Paso. It's not Paso Robles, it's Paso Robles if you want to know for sure. And I learned the language of Sonoma County, Monterey Lake, and Mendocino, and Solano, right? It was a great opportunity for me to have that chance. From there, I joined the Francis Coppola Winery team, and I was with them for 13 vintages, and I really honed my craft of grower relations. And it was a wonderful experience for me, because then I got to do some international programs, which was outstanding and wonderful, and a great chance to grow. And I also learned a little bit about Oregon. And from there, this is where my buddies like Hans and Samuel make fun of me, because I jumped around a little. So we're going to do some jumping now. I joined, oh, by the way, when I was at Coppola, I did start my own wine program called Dot Wine. My husband's going to kill me if I didn't mention that. So Dot Wine I launched in 2016. Yes, I am a viticulturist who made her own wine, and I still make my own wine to this day. I feel that the best way to make wine is to truly have a profound understanding of grapevine physiology. And if you disagree with me, there's about 50 people in this room that will disagree with you as well. And then from there, I joined the Vincennes Technologies team, which is a startup out of Purdue, and I did a bit of work with them in data visualization with software. This is when I jump. And then I moved on to the Cakebread Sellers team, and I'm really bummed I missed Aaron today, because Aaron's at Cakebread now, so it's been really good to kind of catch up with him, and did vineyard operations for them. And then I went to what currently is my favorite job in the industry until the one I have now, which was at Prudential. It's an insurance company, but they also manage global institutional investment funds. And I got the lucky chance to be the vineyard manager for them, basically looking after every asset that they had that might be a vineyard, between California all the way to Washington. And it was an awesome job. And it really honed my financial skills and gave me that sort of extra superpower I needed besides being funny. Now I know how to make money, so that's good, right? Then from there, the reason why I ended up here was because of the fact that I know how to make money, and thank you, Prudential, which is Foley Family Wines. And that's where I am today. I'm the Vice President of Grower Relations for Foley Family Wines. I'm a job jumper, but Andy still likes me. And all of this, the chance I've been able to work internationally, the chance I've been able to go where I've gone and start my own program, my own wine company and everything, is because of this guy. So that's the reason why. So I'm gonna explain to you now how I owe my life to Andy Walker. It'll be fun. So there are 5 tenets of being Walker, okay? Number 1 is put family first. And I'm gonna go through all of these ad nauseum and throw a lot of photos at you, so hang on. The second part is create community. This is also, I'm 45 now and can't see far away or close, so we're gonna get close to the screen. The second tenet is create community. And it's a very important tenet, and it's what I've taken into my career and the reason why I've been able to do what I've done. The third tenet is learn the basics. And I was so excited when Hans said vine balance. You know, it's hilarious. Every time in my department now, whichever department at any job, I've worked at, everyone gets so tired of me saying vine balance. But it is kind of that, you know, it's that basic tenet. The fourth one is respect the past. Andy taught me to respect the past and learn from it, which waylays right into the 5th tenet of being Walker, which is question the future. Question the future and make it better, which is why so many of us are here in the room today. So let's talk about family first. Well, when I joined the Walker Lab and went to UC Davis back in 1998, Sonny, it was a good year. It was before cell phones, thank God. That was a really interesting time. I was 21 years old. I was far away from home. I knew absolutely nobody in Davis. I barely could figure out how to even get here. I was really excited because it was flat, so I could ride a bike everywhere. I mean, that's pretty awesome. But the big part about it was that I was rather alone, and it was really interesting to go and work in this really high energy and amazing lab with a very high energy and amazing leader, and realize that the most important part of that was his family. So talking about that back in 1973, it's before I was born, these 2 crazy, wild and crazy kids met each other and they started dating and they got married. So there are some cute little photos, and I actually got these. I'm laughing so hard. I got these all. I did not have anything to do with these photos. I actually robbed Dan Ning's photo library for this. And they went on to have a family. I think this is Maya, I think. I'm not sure. You can turn around. There's a gigantic thing with Maya behind you. So they had a family, and what I realized about Dr. Walker, first and foremost, was he's a dad. He was a husband, he is a husband, and he's a dad. And that was so important for me. The first experience into the hollowed halls of viticultural excellence was the fact that he was a whole human being, an actual whole person. And that's sort of what I always remembered. Every time in the industry I was able to catch up with Andy, you know, after ACV or during Unified or before he can zoom away after a talk, hey, how's it going? And it was always about Viv and the kids. And it was this amazing experience, and that really formed how I approached my career as well. So thank you, Dan Ning, again, for these photos. They're pretty killer. So the next tenet of being Walker is create community. Again, remember, I was a 20-year-old student, didn't know anybody, and I immediately had this baked-in family from the Walker Lab, and it was pretty awesome. And I showed a picture before about this Christmas or holiday party that the Walker family would throw. And they would invite all of the students from their lab and the researchers from their lab, and sometimes even researchers and students from other labs. And you had this wonderful chance to have fellowship and community. And there is actually, what you've seen in several of the presentations so far, is there is a Walker Lab heirloom that exists. And I am one of the proud recipients of said heirloom, and it is the magical, mystical dream catcher, which I believe I was told was Libby, one of our researchers when I was in the lab. It was I think a wedding present, a pretty obnoxious wedding present, if you will, unless you're into dream catchers, and I'm sorry I just offended you. But this has gone through the hands of several generations of Walker Lab folk, and it is a proud moment when you meet another. I met Chris today finally in person, Chris Chen, and he also was, I think, a recipient of the dream catcher. So we were shepherds of this mystical item. But all the silliness aside, whether you were in the Walker's living room or whether you were in the lab at one of the various amazing, parties that we'd have as a potluck and enjoying the fellowship there and celebrating somebody's birthday, you had this built-in community. And to this day, every time I've had the opportunity to start a department and build a department, I've done this. It's this wonderful no-brainer thing to do, to just instantly build community and create ties with people. It was awesome, and it's something I sort of always have done now. The next tenet of being Walker is learn the basics of viticulture. And this was quite important, whether that was in field during our amphilography exams or in field during our labs, or whether that was getting the chance to sit through Andy's lectures, which, by the way, I actually got the chance to do a little bit, a couple years of being an adjunct faculty lecturer for Santa Rosa Junior College. It's a junior college, a 2-year college over in Sonoma County. And I would prepare my lesson plan and I would give my lectures, and it was pretty hilarious because I started doing the 2 styles of Walker lecturing. So there's 2. I don't know if you remember this, but one is the straight up lecture that's usually sometimes on notes that he's given to you, and you're writing furiously because he speaks very quickly, and that's also another trait I inherited from Andy, is the quick talking Walkerism. But the second one was the secret information that was as important, if not more important, than the main lecture, which were the asides that he would take his hand away and actually tell you the real information that you needed to know. But then you'd come back here and you sort of missed it. So I always sat in the front trying to make sure I could grab those asides that were so critical and important that I needed. For example, I was in the front row ferociously trying to take my notes because, remember, I didn't come from a farming background. I didn't come from a plant science background. We were medical science in our family. And I'm trying to take my notes, and I'll remember to this day, Andy was talking about Semillon of all varieties, and he was trying to explain Semillon to us during, the amphilography portion. And then he said in a very quick aside, but you would be ridiculous to blend too much of that into your Sauvignon Blanc programs because it would really make a diluted Sauvignon Blanc. And I remember thinking, I have no idea what the man's talking about, but I better remember this. And by golly, the man was right. So when I started lecturing, I started doing the asides, and my students got very upset with me. So after that, I had to slow down, take a deep breath, explain the aside, and then move on. But that was a fun moment to hide that information. There was also the chance to walk vineyards with him and the amazing, brilliant researchers and people in his lab. I think Alan's here today. I don't know where you are. I saw you. Like, hey, Alan, how's it going? And it was wonderful. These moments for me as a fresh baby viticulturist with a very, very small, if non-existent plant physiology background was very important. Most of the things they said flew over my head. Which is fine. But now, to this day, I did retain some information with regards to what the basics were of viticulture. To the point now where, fast forward into my career in the industry, I think I have vintage number 20. I've had a couple internships, so 24, I think it's coming up, or 25. It's been quite nice for me to have the ability to walk into a vineyard, see some sort of situation that was quite foreign to us, and be able to think my way through it reasonably, using science, using basic tenets of grapevine physiology. And it's helped me make better wine in my career and serve winemakers better as well. But the most important aspect of my education at UC Davis was walking into this scene. A couple things I learned from this was one thing was how to have lunch. So Andy taught me the working lunch. His favorite meal when I was there, remember I'm the Walker Lab of when Andy was still driving the 4Runner, okay, so I'm that one. I would walk in and his favorite meal was and it sounds disgusting and I understand that, but you know what, we don't yuck on his yum, okay, it was a cinnamon raisin bagel with tuna fish salad on top of it. And he loved it. And if I knew I needed to do a working lunch with Andy, I would have to go get this really interesting combination and bring it to him. And I always got the smiling face. There would be piles of paper everywhere. He would have some crazy deadline in front of him, and he would stop it all, and he would pay attention to me, and he would give me the information I need, and he would guide me, and I would would get out of that office and I'd be able to slay. So it was so important, and this was a big part of my career, this formative experience I had of having his attention and him giving me that time. And also learning that I did try that combination, and it is disgusting. I would not eat it, but that's fine. I'm sorry, Andy, I got a yuck on your yum, it's gross. I was more of a sesame bagel hummus kind of kid, but yeah. The other item that I was taught was respect the past. And Dan actually gave me this amazing photo, and when I saw it, I kind of got a little like, oh my God. But also respect the past. Every lecture that we had was based on traditional viticultural practices, and then you were forced to explore and think and build upon that. And that made California viticulturists. Andy gave birth to these people through this practice. He didn't tell us how it goes. He made us understand the basics and then figure it out. And then go out there and make vineyards better. So that was sort of that big tenet of respect the past that meant so much to me and so many of my colleagues. The next one was question the future. And it's been a pretty awesome situation to be decades into my career, because yes, I am old, and to be able to be using the GRN series of rootstocks that are solving so many problems that I've had with farming for decades. And the fact as well that about a couple weeks ago, I'm sitting in a I sign a bunch of NDAs, so I can never tell you anything, but I nod and smile a lot, like I don't know what's going on. A really important acquisition meeting, and somebody was in there trying to explain to me Caminare Noir, and how important it is, and how it would solve the problem on this acquisition that we're trying to solve for, which is PD related, and that we needed to taste the wine, and let me tell you the history of it. And it just was such this awesome, I did not feel like I was being mansplained. It was this really great opportunity for me to sit back and just see this amazing place that I had come to, that I had a very, very small contribution to research-wise, but got to really benefit from in the industry. And I realized it's up to people like me, who I might not have been the most dedicated and adept researcher, but it is up to me to take these and shoot them to the moon in the industry and take them to where we need to be. To take these varieties that a lot of the gatekeepers are telling us, oh, we're not ready to have, oh no, it's not Cabernet Sauvignon, we can't have it, and say, BS, and it does work, and it solves this problem, and it makes us more money. And when I say that, people tend to listen now, because I've had a million jobs, and to thrust that forward into practice and utilization. So if you're out there and you're one of me, that's your job, by the way. So what I learned at UC Davis that helped my career are the tenets of being Walker. I was not lazy, but this literally is what I learned. And through putting my family first, I was able to have a family. After watching what Andy and Viv did, I got to have this is kind of an old photo, so I apologize, but I look better then than I do now, so that's what you get. And also the fact that many of you sitting here today are colleagues of mine, whether you like it or not, in the industry, and that we're tied with each other until one of us calls uncle. It's an incredibly important situation where we're able to work collaboratively together because we build community and we build this network of this wine industry, which transcends California, by the way. And then the other parts of it as well really kind of gave me my career being at Foley and getting to be on the executive team and make some pretty awesome decisions and build the next phase of a big empire. And the fact that I get to have my own wine label, which has been such a fun experience for my family. I love the fact that I get to specialize in something. Another thing that I forgot to put on here is the fact that Andy taught us that follow your passion. My passion's Pinot Noir, and so I started a wine program over Russian River Valley Pinot Noir, and I love it, and it feeds my soul. It's the yin to my yang, right? I'm a big, big industry girl, and I get to do something super small and perfect sometimes, and it's just really, really wonderful for me. So, moving on, how to be successful in the wine industry, I don't know, but a couple items I learned are be the eternal student. Andy taught me that. I do not have the answers. I do not know what's going on in lieu of climate change and the strange mesoclimate patterns that we've been seeing over the past 5 to 8 years. I certainly don't understand and know, but if you are a student and you go back to your basic tenets, you'll get through it. Use grapevine physiology as your guide. It's helped me steer me through some very difficult vintages. I started my first commercial vintage was probably an internship in '97, but then I took a break and finished school, and then took my master's program and really hit the industry in earnest in 2000. And the worst vintage I thought I'd ever seen in my life, and it was such drama, was 2011. And it was no problem for me because I had a strong understanding of grapevine physiology. And yeah, some situations we weren't going to ripen, and you just had to figure out how to work through it. And my winemaking team was really grateful for the fact that I was steady Eddie through that, and that's because of what I learned in the Walker Lab at UC Davis. Be a wine grower, the goal is the wine. This is the biggest part, and it's really funny because I was able to catch up with Phil and Zelma over lunch, and he's the one who taught me the term wine grower, which is true. But in viticulture, if you're in the California wine industry, which is my industry, which is also Oregon and Washington wine industry, I get to play there too, which is great. We don't grow grapes for grapes' sake. We're growing grapes for wine. And so that's a big part of being successful as a viticulturist in the California wine industry, was keeping that in mind, and it's the goal, and taste those wines and make sure you're staying aligned with that. Your grade at the end of the day, at the end of your career, are the wines in which you had a hand in making. Put your family first. This is one of my favorite photos of Andy because he's got a goofy hat on, and I think it's so hilarious. But again, it's Dr. Walker with a goofy hat on. I mean, what a cool guy, right? So put your family first, and the rest will sort of fall into place. Cultivate community. This is another scene from one of the famous barbecues in the backyard of the Walker's house. I loved getting to visit the backyard. I loved the fact that they kept their pool at ridiculously hot levels in hot woodland, and it never made sense to me, but that was their thing, which was cool. And find your path. For me, as you recall, I had a winding path in my career of places that I worked. But it was a wonderful chance to do that. And I was able to do that because I didn't give up and I stayed true to my passions. And one of those passions that Andy taught me that I did not necessarily adopt, though, is listen to bluegrass music, because it's really good stuff. So I came from a very non-bluegrass background. And my first summer, Andy said, jump in the Forerunner, and jump in the Forerunner. We're hauling out to vineyards, and he starts the engine, and then this assault, this symphonic assault of twangy strings starts. And I'm like, oh, good Lord, what the hell is that? But it's like, it's Dr. Walker, right? Like, you're lucky to be in the guy's lab, so you're not gonna be like, what is this? I don't like it. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And he said, oh, it's a bluegrass festival, and it's going on for 10 days. And I was like, oh, yay. So I had 10 days of that wonderful car with ding 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 ding. It was pretty this amazing experience. But after that, I actually do like, one of my favorite bands now is Mandolin Orange. So I do like bluegrass, not the same genre of bluegrass, but it was a big deal. So this is Andy playing some bluegrass music with a buddy. So anyways, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Dr. Walker. Thank you to the Walker family. I see Viv here, which is great. Thank you, UC Davis Viticulture and Enology Department. Thank you, Dan Ning, for this treasure trove of photos, because I did not take photos. I still don't take photos today. I am a horrible documenter of life. And thank you to the Walker Lab. And there's many versions of the Walker Lab. There's the new Walker Labs, and there's the OG Walker Labs, and all of them that could possibly come. So it was kind of fun to get through this, and thank you so much. And everybody out there, go out there and take these lessons and do better, just like Andy asked us to do. Take care.
Lise, I have one sad thing to tell you. Maybe all the rest of the Walker type lab people. The dream catcher is buried in the vineyard somewhere. Only a few people know where.